Hello everyone, hope you're having an excellent day today. I'm Mark with Atlanta Brick Co. TV, and today we're actually going to be talking about gnomes. Most specifically, our custom gnome kits here. We've got all three of them right here. We've got the Elder Gnome, we've got the Carpenter Gnome, or Gnome Carpenter I should say, and we've got the Gnome Farmer. So we have three different gnomes here. And if you don't know what these are actually custom Lego kits that we at Atlanta Brick Co. produce for customers. So we actually make our own Lego sets, essentially. We order all the pieces, we design the sets, we make the instructions ourselves. We have more of these as well. They're under the exclusive building kits section of our website, atlbrick.com. So you should go check those out if you haven't already. But today, we're discussing these specifically. So you're probably wondering, Mark, why would you make Lego kits about gnomes? There's so many other things you could make. Well, these are actually pretty special gnomes. If you don't know, on Lego Masters, me and Steven were competing, and on episode 5, spoilers, we ended up building some gnomes very much like these. Not exactly, but pretty similar. And we kind of wanted to capture the essence of those gnomes, and we can show you the clip. We can't show them the clip? It's copyrighted? Oh, okay. Well, we can't show the clip here on YouTube, but you can definitely look up Lego Masters Season 2. It should be on Hulu or other streaming services like Amazon. So definitely check out episode 5. You'll be able to see these guys pretty prominently on that episode. Yeah, and so that's the main driving force for why these guys were made. But at the same time, we're trying to diversify our portfolio. Gnomes aren't a very popular subject in Lego. There's been one or two minifigures. I want to say it was a series minifigure that had gnomes, and those were pretty early on, so they're now actually kind of hard to find and collectible. So in order to have a gnome, you often have to get creative and make it with pieces like this. So we wanted to provide that opportunity to people who wanted them. And also there's the notoriety of Lego Masters. That doesn't hurt at all either. There's actually a pretty funny story involving why we ended up building gnomes for our floating island scene in Lego Masters. Initially we wanted to do something different, such as, I think we ended up going with butterflies or bugs. We wanted to put some really unusual characters on this island to really make it more unique, more alive, and do something we haven't done before to try and impress the judges, because they were asking us to try to break out of our castle shell a little bit. But we ended up trying a whole bunch of things, but it turns out our friends Caleb and Jacob, whom you may also have noticed on Lego Masters, they were doing wasps and these big scary bugs attacking the island as part of their story. So we really didn't want to focus exclusively on bugs. So then we said, okay, why don't we try maybe fairies or something really out there we've never done. We're both castle historical guys. We don't really like that fantasy element as much. And so, well, we just haven't built it. We do like it. We were like, we'll do fairies. But guess what? Natalie and Michelle had a fairy as their main character in their build. And so we're like, oh no, we can't do fairies either. So eventually we're like, okay, let's just do gnomes. We're doing gnomes. If anyone else is doing gnomes, our gnomes are going to be better. We're going to do gnomes. So this is our last option. We cannot spend any more time thinking about what's going to be living on this island. So that was the last straw, and Steven ended up designing the gnomes and building them, and as well as the gnome houses as well. And they were basically similar to, I could even say inspired by the Vikings that we made in episode 1. So it's a similar brick-built pattern for how to get the eyes and nose, and you even have the little beards. But at the same time, these guys are all individually very unique. They have different pieces, different colors, and slightly different orientations of things. They have different accessories. So no kit is the same by any means. They're all similar, they look like they live in the same gnome village, but they're very special and different. And so I'm actually going to break down for you all three of these gnomes, who they are, what they're doing, what kind of the little backstory for each one of them is, and discuss them specifically. Because we often talk about them as a group, or even just as a singular, there's a gnome. But these all are independent characters of our own. We want to kind of explain that briefly. The first one is the classic Gnome Elder, and he is very much the iconic gnome. He's got the little red felt hat. He's got the white hair, the white beard, a little bit of blue and yellow to go along, kind of the Lego color scheme. It's very classic, the primary colors. He is kind of the embodiment of the gnome itself. So he's the most typical gnome, if it were. He is semi-retired, relaxed. He's probably like because he's the elder, he doesn't require to do as much carpentry or farming or working. So he's a little more retired, right? He's got his fishing pole and his fish. He's going out to for some recreation as well as gnomes are very productive, efficient peoples, and they like to keep busy. So he's out there fishing and collecting fish for his gnome village. So that's the story behind the Gnome Elder. And I think this one, we had a very similar Gnome Elder in our LEGO Masters build, and he was on top of the whole island just sipping some tea. So we want to have some gnomes just kind of relaxing, enjoying the good life, even if they are very industrious by nature. The next one in the list is going to be the Gnome Carpenter, and he has got his trusty hammer with him instead of any fishing rod or fish. And he is also pretty similar to the Gnome Elder, but he's a little different. His beard and hair color are brown. He's probably quite a bit younger than his elder. That's why he's working. He's a carpenter, and he is in charge of building the houses and bridges and all sorts of wooden things that go in the gnome world. So in the episode of LEGO Masters, which I will probably continue to refer to throughout the video, he is actually making the housing, and he's working on those things. And we have a scene in our store as well where this gnome carpenter is building a house on top of a tree. So he's just always industriously building and working on things, probably harvesting wood as well. So that is his story. He's kind of the younger working gnome, and he is having a good time. And then the final gnome we wanted to cover was the Gnome Farmer, and he is a little different, not only in the color schemes, because he's got different hat, shirt, and pants color, but he's also got a different beard and hair color. He's got the black curly beard. He also has a unique hat shape. Instead of the typical cone hat, he has a little bit more of a rounded bowler hat. So he has a little bit of his own style there too. And he has got his own accessories. He's got a carrot and a shovel, and he's in charge of producing some food and edible things for the gnomes to eat. They very much like vegetables. You'll often see gnomes around gardens or yards. And so he has got a carrot, and he is busy farming most of the time, trying to provide for the other gnomes and anyone else who needs vegetables. They're pretty generous little gnomes. So that is the third character of the trio that we have here. But next, we're actually going to be building these gnomes so you can see them. We have this very nice packaging, but we also want to see them outside of the packaging so you can enjoy the little builds that we've worked on. So I'm going to do a time lapse here, and you'll be able to see that in just a moment. So we have completed our 3 gnome sets here, and they're built before me right now. And I wanted to briefly talk about how the build experience is, because it has been a couple months since I was working on these guys or was picked up and built one. So it was actually pretty fun. It's not a huge set. We try to keep all of our Atlanta Brick Co. sets very small so that they're very affordable. Because once you custom creating large sets, they become outrageously expensive, and we want to make sure that as many people as possible can buy our kits. So they're pretty small. We try to stay small size kits. But that being said, these are actually pretty entertaining little builds. They're more complicated than you would imagine. Steven is the chief designer of these guys, and he put a lot of work into these to make sure they're very detailed, even if they only have a few pieces. And they're also, they're not gigantic, but they're larger than a typical minifigure. Let's see if I can measure this one really quick here. So the Gnome Elder and the Gnome Carpenter stand at 3.5 inches tall. So they're quite a bit taller than the standard minifigure. So they're pretty entertaining. And to get all 3 of them together, it's a very colorful ensemble. You can see some of the pictures there. But yeah, really enjoyed the build process. Having all 3 together was great. Very fun characters. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this little dive into the world of our LEGO gnomes, and I would be remiss if I did not mention that Justin did a fantastic gnome commercial on our channel a few episodes ago, so definitely check that out. Let's see if I can put a link on here somewhere so that you can follow that and see what it is. It'll at least be in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We sure appreciate it. If you like this kind of content, hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. Everything you can do helps us out. We post so many videos here at Atlanta Brick Co. TV pretty much every day throughout the week. So tune in next time. We'll see ya. Thanks a bunch.